My wife stood in front of our bedroom mirror, humming as she changed outfits for the third time. Jenna and I had been married for 4 years, and every Thursday for the past 6 weeks, she had gone out for what she called girls' night. That evening, she settled on a fitted black dress I had never seen before. "What do you think?" she asked. I looked up from the edge of the bed. "You look good." "Just good?" She smiled, but she was already turning back toward the mirror. "You look beautiful," I said. "That's better." She sprayed perfume across her neck. The scent was warm and sharp, nothing like the bottle sitting on her dresser. I watched her place the unfamiliar perfume inside her purse. That was when I noticed the underwear beneath her dress. It was new. I knew how strange that sounds, but when you have shared a bedroom with someone for years, you know what belongs in the drawers. You know what they wear when they want to feel comfortable, what they wear on special nights, and what stays buried under everything else. I had never seen that set before. Jenna caught my eyes in the mirror. "What?" "Nothing." She walked over and kissed my cheek. "Don't wait up, we might be late." "Who's going?" "The usual people." That answer had become one of her favorites. The usual people. She never named them anymore. "Which bar?" "We haven't decided." She picked up her purse before I could ask anything else. "Have fun," I said. "I will." The front door closed. A few seconds later, her car backed out of the driveway. I sat on the bed, still smelling that new perfume in the room. At first, Thursdays had seemed harmless. Jenna used to come home laughing too loudly, carrying greasy food in a paper bag and dropping her shoes somewhere near the front door. She would crawl into bed, press her cold feet against my legs, and tell me stories about arguments at the bar or strangers who had tried to dance with Rachel. Rachel was Jenna's closest friend. They had known each other for years. Back then, Jenna also sent pictures. Group selfies, blurry drinks, messages saying, "You should be here." Those pictures had stopped 3 weeks earlier. When I asked about it, she shrugged. "The girls aren't into photos anymore." It was a small answer, but it sat wrong. So did the way she came home. She was no longer loud or tipsy. She arrived sober and quiet. She removed her shoes before walking upstairs and slid into bed with careful movements, as though the person sleeping beside her was someone she barely knew. I kept finding explanations for her. Maybe the group had calmed down. Maybe she was drinking less. Maybe I was paying too much attention because our marriage had fallen into a routine. Trust can make you generous with excuses. You keep offering them until one of them finally breaks in your hands. The first crack came the following Thursday. Jenna left her phone on the kitchen counter while she finished her makeup upstairs. I was pouring water when it buzzed beside me. The screen lit up. A message preview appeared from someone saved as Kara from yoga. "Can't wait to see you tonight, throwing kisses." I stared at the screen until it went dark. I never touched the phone. Jenna came downstairs a minute later and grabbed it. "Ready?" I asked. She glanced at the notification, then turned the screen toward her body. "Yeah, Rachel's already complaining that I'm late." I nodded. Jenna had never mentioned anyone named Kara. She had talked about her yoga class plenty of times. I had heard stories about the instructor, the woman who always took the front corner, and the 2 sisters who arrived late every week. There had never been a Kara. That night, after Jenna left, I sat alone in the living room. I tried watching television, but every few minutes my eyes returned to the clock. At 9:15, I opened the location-sharing app on my phone. Jenna and I had enabled it years ago for safety. We used it when one of us was traveling, or when we were trying to find each other in a crowded place. Her location appeared almost immediately. The dot was nowhere near the bars she normally claimed to visit. It was 3 houses down from ours. Tom's house. Tom was single and around our age. He had lived in the neighborhood for about 2 years. He was the kind of man who remembered everyone's name and always seemed to have time for a conversation. He had spoken to Jenna plenty of times. At cookouts, near the mailboxes, once in our driveway when her car would not start. I had never considered any of it important. Now her location sat directly over his house. I took a screenshot. For the next 4 hours that dot did not move. At 12:47 in the morning, it started traveling down the street. At 12:49, I heard Jenna's key enter our front door. I placed my phone face down and closed my eyes. She came upstairs quietly. Her clothes rustled near the dresser. The mattress dipped as she climbed into bed. A faint smell reached me. Cologne. It was clean and woody, and it was not mine. Jenna stayed still beside me. "You awake?" she whispered. I kept my breathing slow. A few seconds later, she turned away. That was the moment suspicion ended. I knew. The knowledge did not arrive like an explosion. It settled over me with a strange calm, as if some part of me had already been preparing for it. I wanted to turn on the light and demand the truth. Instead, I lay there until her breathing deepened. By morning, I had decided that confronting her with one screenshot would only teach her to hide better. So I began paying attention. The next Thursday, Jenna repeated the same ritual. More effort than she gave our date nights. The new perfume. The quick kiss. "Rachel wants to try a different place tonight," she said. "Which place?" She sent the name, but I forgot. At 8:30, her location settled over Tom's house. I took another screenshot. That became the first entry in a private record. Date. Time she left. Story she told. Location. Time she returned. I wrote down every contradiction. 1 week, Jenna said Kara was moving away. 2 weeks later, she mentioned that Kara had just signed a new lease nearby. She claimed the group had spent an entire night at O'Malley's, but our joint card showed a purchase from a wine shop near our street. 2 bottles. The charge had been made on October 17th, less than 20 minutes after she left our house. I saved the statement. Rachel helped with the lies. She once sent me a message around 10 at night. "Jenna's fine. We're all at O'Malley's. She'll be home later." I had not contacted Rachel. I had not asked where Jenna was. Rachel had offered an alibi before anyone requested one. That message told me more than she intended. I started noticing Tom's routine too. His garage door stayed closed most evenings, but on Thursdays, it was often open before Jenna left. Her car never appeared in his driveway. She parked farther away and walked back. By the time I understood that, they had already become careless. They believed the cover story was working. One afternoon, I was outside when Tom stepped into his driveway. He lifted a hand. "Hey, man, how's it going?" I waved back. "Pretty good. You?" "Can't complain." He smiled at me as if we were neighbors with nothing between us except 3 houses and a strip of pavement. I smiled too. The expression came more easily than I expected. For weeks, I had felt like the fool in the room. But I was not the fool anymore. I was the only person in that triangle who knew all 3 sides. I met with a divorce attorney the following week. I told her everything and placed the screenshots, card statements, and messages on her desk. She studied them without reacting. "Do not drain accounts," she told me. "Do not threaten anyone. Do not damage property. Keep documenting what you already have legal access to." I followed every instruction. With her guidance, I protected my half of our savings and recorded each transfer. I gathered the house documents and had its value checked. I copied the financial records Jenna could later pretend she had never seen. There was no dramatic secret account and no attempt to leave her helpless. I wanted a clean separation. Fair terms. Clear evidence. I was building something that could survive being questioned. Meanwhile, Jenna kept going out every Thursday. She became warmer at home as the weeks passed, which somehow made it worse. She brought me coffee one morning. She suggested we take a trip together. She sat beside me on the couch with her head against my shoulder, while her phone remained face down in her lap. Every kind gesture felt like another layer placed over the lie. Once you stop hoping you are wrong, everything changes. The noise fades. The need to argue disappears. What remains is quiet focus. By the 13th Thursday, I was ready. Jenna got dressed in the bedroom while I sat downstairs. She came down wearing the black dress again. "You're quiet," she said. "Long day." She studied my face for a second. "Are we okay?" The question almost caught me. For one weak moment, I wondered whether she wanted to confess. Maybe guilt had finally reached her. Maybe she was giving me a door and waiting to see whether I would open it. "We're fine," I said. Relief crossed her face. "Good." She kissed my cheek. "Don't wait up." I watched through the window as she drove away. A few minutes later, her location appeared on my screen. The dot moved past the bars, past the main road, and settled 3 houses away. Exactly where it had settled every Thursday before. I took the final screenshot. The next 4 hours passed slowly. I arranged everything on the coffee table. The screenshots were placed in order. Beside them were the card statements, Rachel's messages, the financial records, and a copy of the documents my attorney had prepared. I signed my part. Then I removed my wedding ring and set it on top. At 12:15, I picked up my phone and opened Tom's contact. I had saved his number weeks earlier but had never used it. I typed one message. "Jenna is married. I know she has been at your house every Thursday. I have the records. She is about to come home and receive divorce papers. After tonight, whatever happens between you is your decision. Think carefully before making it." I read the message twice. There was no threat in it, no demand. Only information. I sent it. The message showed as delivered. At 12:18, it showed as read. I placed the phone on the table. For 25 minutes, nothing happened. Then Jenna's location moved. She was leaving earlier than usual. I pictured the message appearing on Tom's screen. I imagined the sudden silence in his house and the look that must have passed between them. Whatever fantasy they had built depended on me remaining unaware. The moment Tom realized I knew, Jenna stopped being a secret escape. She became a real problem standing inside his home. At 12:49, the front door opened. Jenna stepped inside quickly, clutching her purse against her side. She looked toward the living room and froze. Every light was on. I sat on the couch with my hands resting on my knees. Her eyes moved from me to the coffee table. The documents. The screenshots. My ring. "What is this?" she asked. I pointed toward the chair across from me. "Sit down." Her face tightened. "You're scaring me." 13 Thursdays, I said. "I recorded every one." The color drained from her cheeks, but she recovered fast. "I don't know what you're talking about." I slid the first screenshot toward her. "This was the night you said you went to O'Malley's." She barely looked at it. "That app is wrong all the time." I placed the second screenshot beside it. "And this was the night Rachel said she was with you." We were together. "At Tom's house?" Her mouth opened, but nothing came out. I added the remaining screenshots one at a time. Same address. Same hours. Same route home. "You tracked me?" she asked. "We shared our locations, you knew that. That doesn't give you the right to spy on me. You told me you were across town while you were 3 houses away." Jenna stood suddenly. "I was visiting a friend." "At midnight, wearing perfume you hid in your purse?" "You're twisting everything." I picked up the card statement. "October 17th, 2 bottles of wine bought near this street. You told me you were drinking with Rachel at a bar." Rachel was there. "Rachel messaged me that night before I asked where you were. She was covering for you." Jenna looked toward the stairs. I could almost see her searching for a new version of the story. "It isn't what you think," she said. "Then explain it." She pressed her lips together. "We talked. That's all it was at first. The words at first hung between us. Jenna heard them too. Her face changed. I leaned back against the couch. How long? She looked down. It got complicated. How long? About 3 months. 13 Thursdays. 3 months. The timeline matched. She sat again, but she chose the edge of the chair. I felt ignored, she said. You were distant. Everything between us had become routine. I stared at her. You were worried about our marriage, so you created a woman named Kara and spent Thursday nights in our neighbor's bed? Her eyes snapped toward me. How do you know about Kara? The message appeared on your screen. Can't wait to see you tonight. Jenna covered part of her face with one hand. For the first time, she stopped trying to perform innocence. I was going to end it. When? I don't know. You had 13 chances. Tears filled her eyes. I made a mistake. A mistake happens once. You planned this every week. You changed clothes, created stories, involved Rachel, and came back to our bed. Her phone buzzed inside her purse. She flinched. Neither of us moved. It buzzed again. Check it, I said. She removed the phone and looked at the screen. Her expression collapsed. What did he say? I asked. She locked the phone. Nothing. I texted Tom half an hour ago. Her head lifted. You did what? I told him I knew. I also told him you were receiving divorce papers tonight. You had no right to contact him. He was sleeping with my wife 3 houses from my home. A message was the most respectful response available. She looked back at her phone. He told you to leave, didn't he? Her silence answered me. Tom had liked the arrangement when Jenna arrived dressed for him and went home before sunrise. The moment she became a soon-to-be divorced woman with consequences attached, he stepped away. Jenna's eyes moved toward the documents. Is that what I think it is? Yes. You already filed? My attorney prepared everything. The terms are fair. You can review them with your own attorney. She picked up the first page with shaking fingers. You planned all of this while acting normal? I acted normal while you lied to my face. I thought we could fix things. You came home from his house tonight. She began crying harder. I felt the old instinct to comfort her. For years, the sight of her crying had pulled me across any room. That instinct lasted only a second. Then I remembered lying beside her while another man's cologne clung to her skin. I tapped the folder. You spent 13 Thursdays building this. I needed one Thursday to end it. Please don't do this. It's already done. You're throwing away our marriage. That finally brought heat into my voice. I am responding to what you threw away. She stared at me. I lowered my voice again. You mistook my patience for weakness. It was the only thing standing between you and this moment. Jenna read the first pages in silence. She could contest everything if she chose. That was her legal right. But the evidence would not disappear simply because she disliked it. There would be no screaming match for her to retell as proof that I was unstable. No broken furniture. No cruel messages. Only records, dates, and the truth she had carried through our front door 13 times. I packed some of your things, I said. They're in the spare room. You can stay there tonight or call Rachel. Jenna looked at my wedding ring on the table. Do you hate me? I considered the question. No. That answer hurt her more than anger would have. I'm finished believing you. The next morning, Jenna left to stay with Rachel. After she drove away, I opened the group chat that included Rachel and the friends who had supported Jenna's stories. I sent one screenshot. It showed Jenna's location at Tom's house, the date, and the time. I added no explanation. Rachel's husband saw it first. Within minutes, the chat filled with questions. Some friends were shocked. The ones who had helped Jenna remained silent because any defense would expose their part in it. Tom stopped contacting her completely. A week later, the divorce was moving forward without a fight. Jenna was still with Rachel, whose own marriage was now full of questions. I sat on my back porch with a cup of coffee. 3 houses down, Tom stepped outside and looked toward me. The moment he saw me, he turned around and went back inside. I did not wave. I took another sip and watched the morning settle over the street. I had thought Betrayal would end with shouting or some final sentence sharp enough to make everything feel even. Instead, it ended in silence, paperwork, and a front door closing behind the person I once trusted most. Somewhere between the first lie and the final Thursday, I had stopped waiting for Jenna to choose our marriage. I chose myself, and the rest became a quiet dismantling she never expected. If this story kept you watching, leave a like and subscribe. And tell me in the comments, would you have confronted her after the first location screenshot, or waited until every lie was documented?